Welcome to Killik Rugby. Today we're talking to Daniel Schofield from The Telegraph, and we're talking about the state of the nations in the autumn internationals. There are 2 games left in the autumn international series. How would you rate out of 10 the 4 home nations on recent performances?
I think you have to say Ireland being the best home nation. You would give them either an 8 or a 9. I know they were very dissatisfied with some elements of their performance, notably the line-out, but they've picked up the first clean sweep since 2006, picked up the scalps of South Africa and Australia, 2 real big beasts, and they've done that without 18 injured players, which is an incredible achievement. Scotland, you'd be looking at a 7 or 8 if you're feeling generous. No one really expected them to beat New Zealand, although they gave it a very, very good go. And then they've knocked off Tonga and Argentina, who, by beating France, showed what a formidable team they still are. Then in the sort of can-do better category, you'd be looking at England and Wales, around a 4. They've both got 1 win each against Tier 2 opposition, but in the games they desperately wanted to win, they were outperformed on each occasion. The margin of victory, certainly in England's case, didn't necessarily do justice to how much better both South Africa and New Zealand were.
So for you, are Ireland the best team in Europe at the moment?
I think it's hard to make a case that they're not. They were 9th, I think, when Joe Schmidt came in, and now they're up to 3rd in the world rankings, and justifiably so. I think what sets them apart from the other home nations more than anything is their half-back combination. Murray and Sexton, they're such intelligent footballers. They know when to put the brakes on, they know when to apply a little bit of gas. And with their other players coming back, I think they'll be the strongest European challenger at the World Cup.
Who for you has been England's man of the series?
I think you would have to look towards England's tight 5, who I would suggest would be immune from criticism. Dave Atwood has gone really well coming in for Joe Launchbury. He's got a couple of black marks next to his name for not giving a scoring pass, and then against South Africa, and then dropping 1 against Samoa. Dylan Hartley has ensured the line-out went really well against both New Zealand and South Africa. However, my England player of the series would be Joe Marler. I think the biggest compliment you can pay him is that no one's talking about Alex Corbusiero being absent, and Corbusiero is probably one of 2 or 3 genuinely world-class players that England have at their disposal.
And what about George Ford? He had a great debut on Saturday.
Yes, I mean, he's got everyone excited. He's a contrasting player to Farrell. He plays much flatter and has got the ability to get backline really motoring, pardon the pun. And I think he showed against Samoa that he's worth another go against Australia, because you can only learn so much by starting him against, with sort of due respect, Tier 2 opposition. It's against Australia that we'll find out if he's as great as we all hope he is.
And turning to England, we have Australia on Saturday. Where are the threats going to come in that game? What do we need to look out for?
The threats will come from all over the place. They are an extremely good rugby team. Even though they lost, it was probably one of the matches of the year. And to come from 17 points down shows that they've got a lot of character there. And if you were to look at their back line, the individual threats there, Folau, Kurtley Beale, if he plays, the Waratahs halfbacks, Foley and Phipps, Adam Ashley Cooper, those are all individual game winners, and Folau especially can win a game single-handedly. One of the things Ireland did very well was to kick as much as possible to Foley in the backfield rather than him, to get him out of the game, because if you kick loosely to him, then he can absolutely destroy you.
So it's going to come down to Australian strengths as opposed to England weaknesses?
Not necessarily. You would say English pack is stronger,
Right.
and I'm sure they'll want to turn it into a dogfight as much as possible. The key thing is that you do play to your strengths, and what was noticeable about Ireland's victory against South Africa compared to England's was that they played the conditions in the wet superbly. They were constantly kicking behind South Africa, turning their wingers and their fullbacks, and I think England's first kick against Springboks in similar conditions didn't come, or as an attacking kick, didn't come until somewhere near half time. So it's very much about knowing what your strengths are and then playing what's in front of you, because too often this autumn England seem to have been sort of stuck in sort of prescribed routines and haven't necessarily got their heads up to see what's in front of them.
Lancaster and the players have had a fair amount of criticism. Is the media and other fans running out of patience with this team?
I would say they've had a lot of patience to begin with. When you remember where England were when Stuart Lancaster came in post 2011 World Cup, people were prepared for him to develop a long-term strategy, and you've seen England go from a team that was originally very hard to beat to a team that was trying to play a more expansive game, and then through the Six Nations in 2012, 2013, 2014, you've seen an evolution that I think a lot of people have bought into. But the problem with this autumn is that evolution, we're not quite sure where it's going. It's very difficult to make an argument that they've progressed. If anything, they seem to have regressed in a lot of areas, and that's where the criticism is coming. And you do have to remember that England have by far the biggest player base. They're the richest union. It's not unreasonable to be expecting them to win their home games. And at present, Stuart Lancaster's win rate isn't too dissimilar to Martin Johnson's and Brian Ashton's. So people need to really have a reason to believe going into this final game against Australia. So it makes this a really must-win game.